This last month, homeowners all across Texas received notices that their property's been appraised for a much higher value than they were last year. Now, if you're selling your house and I were to give you a report that said it was suddenly worth 50, 60, or 70% more than last year, you would be thrilled. But when the appraisal district says it's worth more, most people automatically start thinking that their taxes are going to go up by that same amount because the appraised value is used to calculate your property taxes. When these notices first started arriving, everybody across the Austin Metro hit the panic button. The Travis County Appraisal District's website actually crashed because of the huge influx of new online inquiries. Now, the ones who are the most concerned are investors who own multiple homes, because even though the homestead exemption will limit how fast the appraisal values can be increased on your primary residence, if it's a second home or a rental property, there is no limit to how fast your taxes can be increased. Now, fueling this frenzy, there has been a lot of YouTube videos that don't quite give you all the information. A sensational headline might grab your attention, but once you understand the facts, you can take a deep breath and realize that what they're saying is going to happen probably is not going to. Stick around with this video, and I'm going to tell you all about it. Now, if you haven't heard, we have been in the middle of an historic run-up in home prices for the last 2 years. These appreciation gains have not been limited to Central Texas, but the Austin Metro has seen some of the highest home value appreciation in the entire country. Now, the good news is if you sold your house in the last 2 years, you got way more money than you thought you were going to get. And if you're still in your house, you currently have a lot more equity than you ever have. Now, everybody loves that, but a booming housing market also brings increased appraised values, which could mean increased property taxes, and nobody wants to pay more taxes. Now, when most people received the appraisal notice that their property value had doubled, they assumed that meant their taxes were going to double as well. And this is what set off the panic, and in some cases is still driving it. Now, I'm not saying that I know everything about real estate, but I am pretty good at knowing where to go to get accurate information. So a lot of what I'm going to tell you in this video comes from a report done by a research economist named Dr. Adam Perdue of the Texas Real Estate Research Center in College Station. He said this: many factors complicate how property taxes are calculated, but by and large, the increases in property appraisals being reported vastly overstate the average increases in property tax bills that should be expected next January. Now, there are 2 steps in determining your tax bill. The first step is what we're talking about now. The appraisal district is required to appraise all real property at fair market value every year, which usually leads to manageable and understandable increases in tax appraisals. The Texas Real Estate Research Center's Texas Home Price Index showed a 3% average annual increase in statewide market values from 2007 to 2019, peaking at 7.6% between January 13th and January 2014. But in 2020, the average increase was over 9%, and in 2021, it hit a record high of almost 20%. When there are unusually high appraisals across the board, it's important to remember that the appraisal process is only the first step in calculating that tax bill. The second step is determining the tax rates, and these are done by the taxing authority and are determined by the cost of providing, get this, voter-approved government services. Tax rates can, and often are, recalculated every year. After the appraisal district gives property owners the opportunity to protest the initial property valuations, they will submit the valuations to the taxing authority. The taxing authority will then calculate a tax rate that provides the revenue necessary to continue the government services, but only the services that voters have requested and approved. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm convinced that if you give a politician twice as much money as they were expecting, they're going to find a way to spend it all. But here in Texas, if that tax rate increases total tax revenues by more than 3.5%, that increase must be approved by voters. In other words, since the total tax revenue can't be increased by more than 3.5%, but property values have increased on average 20%, then the tax rate would need to be reduced to keep the total tax revenue under that 3.5% limit. Dr. Perdue said it this way: in an ideal scenario where voters were happy with the previous tax bills and level of government services, even a 20% increase in average taxable valuations could be exactly offset with a 17% cut in the tax rate and yield the same tax bill for the same level of services, holding everything else constant. Now, there are complicating factors that impact this process. For example, the homestead exemption limits growth in taxable value to 10% per year, which will slow the growth rate of the homesteaded property's tax bills. And an over 65 homestead exemption places a ceiling on the amount that qualifying homeowners pay in school taxes, which is the biggest component of anybody's property tax bill. Now, to sum up, even though your appraisal value skyrocketed by a huge percentage, according to Texas state law, there is virtually no chance the actual amount of taxes you pay will increase by that same huge percentage. I get emails, texts, and phone calls almost every day from people who are thinking about buying or selling real estate here in the Austin area, and I would love to help you out too. If you like this video, you should check out this other one that I did. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. All of my contact information is in the video description, so don't be shy. Let's make your real estate dream come true.